Let's go! Today we're breaking down LSU's highest riser in the rankings. That is Whit freaking Weeks. And I'm just going to warn you before we continue today. Yes, I'm looking at you. I have never watched a more diverse film, I don't even know how to describe it, a skill set from a player than Whit freaking Weeks, okay? The very first clip, you see him at tight end, take a ball to the house, and then you see him read the passing angle, catch it in midair, and then have the speed to take it in for a tutty. Now, I understand these are just high school highlights, and that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to need your help in the comments section. Do you believe Whit Weeks is a future all-SEC level defensive player? And the one thing that just stood out to me consistently were his ball skills. Now, that was a Hail Mary at the end of the half. You want to just knock that football down, no big deal. Go on ahead, pad your stats. You were killing him. But what I want to do is show you this clip. Now, I know what you're saying. This is a linebacker. I don't care what he does at tight end. But watch him absolutely drill this defensive end all the way back, and the running back quite literally followed right where Whit Weeks came from, and then he cuts off this safety with this pancake, which is what caused this touchdown to happen. So quite literally, when I broke down Whit Weeks, number one, this high school has produced a lot of LSU Tigers, right? Max Johnson being one of them, go all the way back to Zach Mettenberger, and of course, Whit Weeks' older brother, Wes Weeks, who is currently on the team. But the truth is, Akani High School, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, doesn't necessarily produce a lot of D1 football players, and on this roster, it was Whit Weeks and not a whole lot else. Now, I want you to remember this touchdown catch. We're going to get back to it, and I want you to remember this play, okay? But as you watch him in the background, you literally watch him make every different type of football play, playing pretty much every position you can imagine. And right there, they called that an incomplete pass. It should have been a fumble. Great presence of mind to strip the football. And once again, this is just his senior tape. His junior tape, to me, was arguably better than this one, and this one is flat out phenomenal. So I'm going to give you what I like, what I think is going to need some work, but the truth is, Whit Weeks is one of the most versatile LSU recruits ever, period. Now, I understand I haven't been doing as close of evaluations as I've been doing in the past couple of years, but when it comes to playing every position, he has a touchdown throw, I believe, as well. Outside of offensive line, it is the only position that he did not play, outside of course, like a traditional corner. But you see him, drop back into coverage, make big-time plays. You see him make interceptions. Something else I like to see from an athlete is how quickly do you pop up. That shows me body control. Whit Weeks pops up after quite a few plays, like you'll see right here. That just shows me just physical dominance. And honestly, the guy just really pops, right? When you watch him, you see a Division I football player. Now, we could get into a conversation how difficult a competition this is. Well, this is Georgia high school football, right? You're going up against D1 guys pretty much every week. Now, I don't believe Akani plays at the highest level of Georgia high school football, but it's still very difficult. And once again, he is not playing on a team full of Division I talent. So each and every week, he is having to make all different types of plays, which is why they rely on him so much on both sides of the football. But honestly, he just has a great command for the game, great athleticism. We're going to talk a little bit more about his speed here in just a second. But physically, this guy is a Division I football player. And something else that is very interesting is that he did shoot up the boards. Now, when he committed to LSU, he was only a 3-star recruit, but his finalists included Georgia, where his dad played. Ole Miss was another one of his finalists. So this was a guy that was being recruited by a bunch of Power 5 teams, and now his 4-star ranking is reflective of that. And in particular, he shot at the on-3 boards late in the process as well. So early on, that was a fourth down conversion, by the way, a deep one. Early on, he wasn't so highly rated. He was only a 3-star, but now he is a pretty comfortable 4-star recruit. And it is just hard to not really enjoy watching this guy play football. I'm legit, my jaw is to the floor watching him do some things for LSU. Now, we're going to get into a few extra things as well here. He is an early enrollee, so this is a guy who could step in right away and get playing time. And yes, they did bring in Omar Spates, but overall, this LSU linebacker room still isn't the absolute deepest. Now, Whit wasn't the only traditional linebacker that they brought in. Christian Brathwaite is somebody that we're going to be talking about pretty soon as well. He's got some real potential. But honestly, I think Whit Weeks is the best linebacker, off-ball linebacker that they brought in for this crop, and immediate playing time will be available. Now, he's going to be competing against his brother, Wes Weeks, for some of that playing time. And, of course, they do return Greg Penn as well. But the truth is, the off-ball linebacker position at LSU, there are reps to be had, right? And this is one of the more wide open positions on what is a very talented team. So, honestly, with Micah Baskerville gone, Mike Jones is gone. Mike, of course, didn't really play all that much towards the end of last year. Weeks has a chance to potentially be a starter by the end of next year. Now, the question is going to be, is he that level of player? So what's on your screen right now is Whit Weeks' senior high school stats, but what's even more impressive than the over 100 tackles and all the offensive production as well is like Lance Hurd. And by the way, I'm looking at you right now. We've already done our breakdowns of Shelton Sampson and Lance Hurd, and their final grades from me are posted on Patreon. Now, before I play this rep right here, I'm going to show you this from Charles Power at On3. We mentioned this earlier in the week with our Lance Hurd deep dive, that Lance Hurd dominated at these at these Under Armour All-American settings. Now, this is the Army All-American game, which still features a bunch of 4- and 5-star level players. And what I'm going to do is play this rep for you. This is one-on-one. The receiver or running back here has all the advantages. He is running an out and up versus Whit Weeks. And you see Whit Weeks gets away with a little bit of a tug right there, but then the receiver pushes off of him, and I want you to watch this play. Yes, the ball was underthrown, but this is some ridiculously good coverage skills from a linebacker. So, once again, you don't want to take too much away from just high school footage. You don't want to take too much away from Army All-American footage, but the truth is Whit Weeks was dominant in both aspects. So when I see that, that shows me a lot from a linebacker. And something else I've seen in these camp settings is that Whit Weeks was never afraid to go up against the best of the best. And the funny thing about it was a big knock for Whit Weeks was his speed. But if he is able to hold up in coverage at these camps, once again, not necessarily a game setting, you do begin to wonder if Whit Weeks has become a better overall athlete. And this was my big thing while watching him as well. I looked at his 100-meter time. This is something that's been talked about quite a bit. This was posted from his sophomore season, but this 100-meter time was once again his sophomore season. It was below 12. Now, a sub 11 100-meter, that's like Jaylen Brown level speed. You would like to have all your skill position guys be under 12, in particular your linebackers, but that was recorded his sophomore season. And one of the big knocks via On3 has been his long speed and his overall just athleticism from sideline to sideline. I will be the first to tell you that that's probably not his best trait, but the truth is he's gotten faster. It just seems that way. We don't have an updated 100-meter dash time, but the truth is he looks fine to me when it comes to speed. But Looking at you. There are some things, though, that I think Whit Weeks can work on. Obviously, a lot is going to get ironed out. How you are supposed to play at the collegiate level is different than in college. So it's very important to keep all of that in mind. There is plenty of coaching under Matt House's tutelage that will be done. Now, this was a great job right here by Whit Weeks. They ran a counter with a lot of eye candy, some pre-snap jet motion there as well. But what I want to show you here is one thing I think a lot of linebackers struggle with is playing a little too downhill. Now, once again, this could have been a run blitz call, but I did see this a few times when watching Whit Weeks. This is a playoff game. Remember earlier I told you to remember this game versus Carver. And here's Whit Weeks coming on a blitz, and you'll see he kind of runs himself out of the play. His job right here is to occupy this B gap, and he shoots the backside A gap. Once again, it could have been a run blitz call. And you see this gap gets deoccupied right here, and they get a big rushing gain here in a playoff game versus Carver. Now, we're going to get back to this game in just a second, but I want to show you one more clip. So this was a game that OC ended up losing at home. Get it. But this was a huge miss right here where he drops the interception, and you could see how frustrated he was. This is a fourth quarter situation. They're up 27-21. And this would have sealed the game. You see him get back into his coverage drop right here. And now he is able to see, and this linebacker, Whit Weeks right here, his back gets turned to the quarterback. Quarterbacks are taught if the linebacker's back is to you, try and dart that thing into this space. Look, there's only a minute left in the fourth quarter, so you got to start taking some chances down the field. But look at Whit Weeks. Look at him in coverage. Turn, and now he is running the route better than the receiver. You see, he cuts off the receiver. You see a nice fluid turn in the hips. All you got to do is catch it, and you seal the game. And, that's just brutal right there. But honestly, coming back to this game versus Carver, this was one of the most complete high school performances. This was a playoff game. They ended up winning this one 14-6. And I'm going to show you something in a minute that is super impressive. But on the kickoff team, you see him just beat everybody down, take on this block, and force this play to bounce. And we get a nice negative play on kickoff. I'm telling you, outside of that one drop pick, there's just not a whole lot of bad when watching his tape. So, for me, this is one of his better plays. Now, a lot of you might remember who this is. It might be a sore subject for some of you, but this is actually a four-star defensive tackle by the name of Darren Reed. Okay, he was once an LSU commit. He is going to Auburn. He had a ridiculously high grade for me. It was a big loss for us, but life moves on. Okay, so they bring him in to play some tight end as well. So this is a big-time Division I athlete coming after Whit Weeks, and watch Whit Weeks take him on. Okay, this is impressive. Bang! Physical, just punks him, turns him to the inside, strips the block, and he just throws Reed to the side and just makes this play. Once again, we want to keep our feet after this, but, you're asking a lot out of Whit Weeks right there. You also want to try your best to keep your feet, but that is an excellent, excellent play, and he did this a lot to Darren Reed. So I want you to see this, okay? Darren Reed again, earlier in the game, versus Weeks. Weeks gets underneath him. Reed is actually holding him, and Weeks is able to shed that block and make this tackle. It's just really, really impressive stuff. So, yeah, this guy did basically everything in this game. So now you got Whit Weeks at running back here, and Darren Reed actually blows this play up, and it gets into pure pandemonium. So he's actually playing his normal position of defensive tackle, and you see why he's a freaking beast, and I wish he wasn't going to Auburn. But this quarterback for OC just having to make a play here, and he just chunks it up, and he's like, hey, F it, Whit's down there somewhere. And look at this. This ball should have been picked, and Weeks actually mosses this guy to make this catch, and the final score of the game ended up being 14-6. So, yes, he dropped the clutch interception to seal it, but in the actual playoffs, you see him making big-time plays. And what I'm not actually showing you is he actually had the big catch to spring the first touchdown, and when they actually punched in the first touchdown, he was a key blocker at tight end. So, man, this is amazing, right? It is flat out ridiculous what this guy was able to do. And by the way, after this touchdown, he's going to deep snap the field goal. So, what are my final thoughts on this young man? Well, let's actually take a deeper look and we'll come to a consensus. So, on our Power Hour LSU Patreon, I have not released my Whit Weeks grade just yet, but what I decided to do for all my lovely patrons is my favorite Whit Weeks game. I actually broke it down just on Patreon. So if you want to see that extra bit of footage, just go to patreon.com/LSU Football. And that little bit extra a month gets you access to our PHL Discord and so much more. Now, the clip you just saw was from Whit Weeks' junior year, and his junior tape also is really freaking good. And on the junior tape, you see him actually block a few extra points, right? Once again, if there is a type of football play to be made, Whit Weeks has made it. Blocking, catching, running, tackling, snapping. I mean, quite literally everything. I just don't know if I've ever seen that from any other LSU recruit. Now, there are guys that have some ridiculous two-way film, Dante Jackson being one of those guys. It's just one off the top of my head. But, man, I mean, this guy is truly a fun watch. The big question is going to be, is he just a dominant high school football player, or is this going to translate? Yes, it is very cool to have a Swiss Army knife player like this who you would like to think is going to be a very good special teamer. But, in college, you're not asked to do every last little thing. The thing is, can he be exceptional at playing off-ball linebacker? We'll see, right? I obviously feel really great about him, and I think he is going to be a very good collegiate linebacker. But is he a year one guy? On special teams, abso-freaking-lutely. On defense, we'll see, right? There is some translation that needs to happen, and that can only really be seen, once you actually put the pads on and you see him in practice going up against everyone being Division I athletes. But I do think there is some year one potential. And you guys know, if you watch PHL, if you guys know me, I don't like labeling somebody a year one guy unless I can gazillion% say that you are just that. And I am very close to saying that about Whit Weeks. I think he is really, really, really good. I do think his biggest jump is going to be year two, but we'll see. Once again, there's a lot of injuries that happen in the sport, and LSU desperately needs linebacker depth. And yeah, I think he's going to be a very good player at LSU. I really do. So you comment down below, do you feel Whit Weeks is a year one linebacker at LSU? I think he is. And the performance at the All-America game makes you feel better, but it could just be that I've watched this guy all day and I've put together this video all day. Once again, I watched that full game versus Carver. The guy's just a big-time player. He plays his best football in big moments as well. It's just really, really fun to watch this guy compete, and I can't wait to see him once again at LSU. Now, once again, is he better than Christian Brathwaite? I think so, but I haven't really watched Brathwaite all that closely. So I can't wait to dive deeper and take a look at him. Once again, I'm doing this for as many incoming high school guys as I possibly can. We've already done our Shelton Stevenson and Lancer breakdowns. Those videos will be floating in your face in just a second. I highly recommend you watch each and everything we put out here on PHL, and I really do appreciate all the positive feedback that we have been getting. So comment down below. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate it. We're growing, baby. Let's keep it going. Once again, patrons, I'm going to give out a Jeremy Hill autograph card to the next person that signs up for the PHL Patreon, baby. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Once again, Whit Weeks, his most ridiculous play is on the Patreon. And tonight, it's tacos night 2. Let's go.